Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Season 1, Episode 09, Under Wraps. This is the episode where we see Andrew and Seporia, which is another kingdom that wasn't mentioned in the 7 kingdoms earlier. So that puts us up to 9 kingdoms now. How many kingdoms are around here? Did Seporia become part of, whatever. Moving on. So we found out the General Champagne invaded and fell in love and blah blah blah. That's cool and all. You know what I really like about this intro? The animation of it. The way they use the pop-up book thing is actually really crazy good. Like, silly crazy good. It's actually sort of hard to even comment on it. Look, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Seporia's fine. It's over there. Everything's fine. Cool. So now we talk about the Day of Hearts. I was in the middle of typing up my notes about this, about how weird it is that this is our 3rd episode dealing with a holiday in 9 episodes. So like 1/3, literally 1/3 of our episodes so far have been dealing with some kind of holiday or another. When Cassandra says, God, why do we always celebrate everything? Maybe it's just a thing? Maybe they have wealth and opulence? Maybe they're burning money on, festivities instead of actually fixing their infrastructure. I don't know. I'm telling you, I have a hard time analyzing the world building here because I don't know how much of it's on purpose. Like, this could imply a lot. No, really, think about this for a second. The king of a kingdom, which is not super large, but nevertheless has very valuable port connections, decides to spend lots and lots of money for about 18 or so years on multiple festivals to try and keep both himself and his overall kingdom's mood up. All that money has to come from somewhere, so he pulls back from the more boring stuff, infrastructure and development and progression, all of which lead to a kingdom that's tactically kind of starting to rot from within as its infrastructure slowly falls behind. All this makes sense since the king himself was probably very depressed and lacking some of the kingly duties he needed to do, thanks to the loss of his daughter. See? That makes perfect sense. But no. The truth is that none of that was thought out and nobody was thinking about anything, right? Yeah, that's actually another good way we could put it, Ross. It could be that they didn't have any holidays. And then, oh my God, my daughter's back. Celebration! The problem with that is every single holiday they've mentioned so far has been what they've mentioned has been a tradition for a long time. In some cases in the century range, the 500th anniversary, for example. I apologize if I sound unkind. I don't mean to come across as harsh as I probably sound. That's the headache talking. It's just, it is funny to me how little they seem to be thinking about what they're writing on the screen. Because there's a lot that could be said about a lot of these things. And I found myself getting irritated at how much of it doesn't seem to actually be on purpose. So Cassandra's off doing stuff. Okay. Rapunzel throws a singles lunch. Friedborg continues to not be funny. And can I just say that one of the things I do actually like about this sequence is that Rapunzel is kind of awesome. I haven't really commented on her a lot as a character because there's not a lot to say about her. But of all of the character things and problems I have about this show, Rapunzel is pretty consistently not one of them. Yeah, Rapunzel has yet to be bad. She's yet to have the asshole ball. And I imagine that's going to be a recurring trend. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a mandate. She's just kind of a cinnamon roll, right? And that's good. Yeah, exactly. The main character is supposed to be likable. It's actually a great danger and a risk. A lot of directors, writers, and actors will caution you if you want to start your character as unlikable. Because, you want to have a character arc. Some of you remember I once did a series called the Fallout 3 Roleplay. And I specifically wanted to stretch with that roleplay. I wanted to stretch my writing capabilities, and I wanted to stretch my acting capabilities by playing someone extremely against type for me. So rather than playing, the crazy guy or the insane evil guy or the nice guy, I played an asshole. Matthew, in Fallout 3. Now, spoilers. Matthew had a character arc. That was the whole point. The idea was for him to slowly grow out of that as the wasteland beat his face in over and over, and he realized that things weren't what he thought they were. I also didn't do that just completely on accident, because, Matthew was really think about the Fallout 3. We'll talk about when we do the Fallout 3 run. Think about the character for a second. Think about the character you're playing. they live an insular, isolated life where they're literally propagandized and brainwashed on a regular basis. And all of a sudden, boop, here's the wasteland. Have fun. It was really logical to me to go that direction, and I wanted to go that. But if you're paying attention, the thing I'm trying to say here is that it was probably a bad idea. Because I actually had people tell me that they couldn't watch that whole series because I was apparently extremely good at playing a really unlikable asshole. All of this is a roundabout way of saying that it's dangerous to make your main character anything other than likable. It's always a risk. And so, of course, Rapunzel is likable. And in their defense, they do a good job with that. After all, sometimes fiction tries to make a character likable, and instead they accomplish the exact opposite. In fact, I've seen several things in several works of fiction, especially games, where the main character is clearly supposed to be likable, and super duper isn't. So I do want to give praise for the fact that Rapunzel has been legit. And this is as good a time as any to mention it, because I don't have much else to say about this episode. That's also true, Kitten Fan. Very true. So, we see Andrew, and he's like, oh, yes, I'm super amazingly perfect in any way, and I was going to do this, but then I rescued an orphan sheep from wolves in order to get its fur, and yeah, no, he's evil. He's evil. Of course he is. I've watched this show before. It's so incredibly obvious that he's the bad guy because they're trying too hard to make him look like he's super amazing. I'm going to come back to that point, but I just wanted to mention that even in my notes, I directly compared him to Monty for a similar reason. So at this point in the show, I feel like in the show as a whole, not the episode, I feel like I'm watching the world's weirdest porn-themed game show. Spot the asshole! Yeah, no. Thank you, Type 3B Skeleton. I will take that. You know, a lot of people couldn't recognize that was me. I actually play a lot of roles in that. But anyways. I mean, I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. There's a lot as I'm looking through this episode, as I'm trying to spot, okay, who's the asshole this episode? Now, we know who it is. Having watched the whole episode, we do know who it is. But yeah, I'm just like, all right. And the weird part is, as I'm watching and as the episode progresses, I realize it's not Eugene. He's just jealous. It's not Rapunzel. She's cool. It's not Cass. She's fine. And there's only one other character who's even in the episode. So the guy is very clearly and obviously interested in the book. So he's some kind of thief or something, right? Okay. He also has a couple of lines of dialogue that I wrote down because I wanted to share these. I don't condone modes of transportation that exploit asses. I don't condone modes of transportation that exploit animals, and it's simple science, actually. But yes, it can be quite magical. So him, Andrew. It's Andrew. Andrew's the asshole. Yeah. He is, too. He's a hipster. And, like, of all directions to take this guy, like, yeah, sure, he's the rebel trader, and he's part of the resistance and the separatists, and that's all cool. But no. He's an hipster, right? Like, that's his whole shtick. Is that, like, even just the way he talks, you can clearly see that they just copy-pasted, like, they pulled out a couple things and replaced some of the words to make it more appropriate for the times, because I swear I've heard people actually say some of these lines before. And the thing is, and this is the thing that really defines a hipster. Really defines a hipster. It's not the fact that you don't want to exploit animals. That's fine. It's not the fact that you're trying to correct them about something. That's fine. It's that you're an asshole. Because at the end of the day, and we actually talked about this in the GTA 5 run, that is fundamentally what being a hipster is actually about. It's just a gradient of being an asshole. Oh! Found him! So there's this wonderful bit where Cass is like, can I please have some alone time? And I have a really strange question that I don't want to ask. Does Rapunzel know what physical intimacy means? I mean, she knows what a hug is. She apparently knows what a kiss is. She's been locked in a tower for 18 years. And I mention this here because there's this bit. She does read a lot. She's rather well learned, actually. But there's this bit where Cassandra wants time alone, and it's really obvious what she means by that. And Rapunzel immediately bounces off of it. Just like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll leave it alone. And I got the really strong impression, however minor or slight it is, that she legitimately didn't understand why it is that Cassandra would want some time alone with this guy. Now, considering Cassandra is a lesbian, this is actually doubly amusing, all things considered. Kind of gross, not gonna lie. But it does line up, it makes the episode line up substantially more linearly. It's like, oh, okay. Because, I'm sorry, not for a millisecond did I actually think that she was falling for this asshole. Not even for one tiny moment was I like, oh my god, I even caught the dagger thing. I'll come back to that in a minute. There's a couple of really cool animation shots. The balloon panning over the grass is a good example of that. And then we go to Xavier, the blacksmith, who apparently was supposed to be in the movie. Didn't actually show up in the movie. And it turns out that this is a symbol of the separatists of Seporia. Yeah, called that. I'll come back to that in just a second, too. Cassandra, so I mentioned the dagger thing. Apparently, I'm just running through this episode really quickly. Earlier in the episode, when she's getting ready to go out on her date, she actually specifically goes out of her way to... And the episode shows us sliding her dagger into her boot to make sure it's there for when she needs it. This is the exact same dagger she then parries with him against. Now, I bet most people just looked at it and were like, okay, of course she's bringing a dagger to a date. It's Cassandra. I actually noticed that, because this is animation and stuff doesn't happen on accident, so I'm just staring at it like... Correct, Sir Jorah Mormont. That is absolutely correct. This format of rumination, aka the format we've used for ruminations for the last 10 years at this point, exists as a sort of a compromise, because the only show I can show you on camera is the Donkey Kong Country show, because nobody cares about that one. If I was to show Tangled on screen, I would be absolutely buried in copyright problems. Also all the Star Wars stuff. And that just leaves Arcane, which is a maybe. So we do this format because this is as good as it gets. Trust me, I'd rather not be doing these at all and do this a little better, because as the DKC showed, that is by far the superior format in order to do this kind of a thing. But at the same time, that's its own problem, so here we are. Yeah, I would like to continue to be able to make money, you know, to exist would be nice. So I'm good. So the dagger's a nice bit of foreshadowing, and I do like that. I also like how Cassandra is completely on top of things here. It's actually nice to see someone who's just straight up competent, who's playing the guy and trying to figure out what's going on and blah, blah, blah. So I'm with all of that. Having said that, there's this interesting back and forth where she's talking with Rapunzel. God, I can never think of her frickin' name. I don't know why Rapunzel, every time I look at her head, every time I look at her face in my head, I see the name Tangled. I'm not joking. It's the Metroid thing all over again. Ham. Cassandra and Rapunzel have a pretty good conversation back and forth about how Rapunzel just cannot keep things quiet, and also that's fine, but if Cassandra keeps things too quiet, Rapunzel's going to be concerned and want to help. And both of those are valid points, actually. What they probably should have is some kind of keyword of, hey, I'm dealing with something, but it's private, don't help, right? Like, I'm going to go play chess. It's like, oh, okay, keyword. Let's do it. So, hands off, you're going to play chess. Cool. And that's the kind of thing they probably should have and don't actually do. Yeah, I do also like Eugene's conversation with her in the Thorn Patch. There's some good little moments in this episode which help drag it up a little bit, which is good, because the A-plot is particularly unengaging. Did you catch that his big plan is to steal the book? Why? Like, I'm sorry, what exactly does he think this is going to change? Like, is he really going to go back and be like, hey, look! Now we have proof that our people have been cool with them for centuries! That'll show them! What is he trying to accomplish here? In fact, maybe I missed it. Oh, I guess there are the tunnels into Corona. That's right, that's right. They never even mentioned that. I mean, they did at the beginning. Excuse me. They did in the pop-up book, but yeah, it's okay, I'll let it go. I actually missed that. That's on me. So they want access to the tunnels. I'm guessing those are the tunnels that Varian found earlier on in the show, too. Anyways, sorry. So we have a pretty good action sequence, all things considered. I don't have much to... Yeah, no, you're right, Lord Harriman. I completely skipped over that because I did miss that because I have a really low writer factor for this show at the moment. You're right. I've been skimming over some details because they can't possibly be done on purpose, right? Also because I have a headache. Big action sequence. That's cool. I actually do like the action sequence. You know, like, for example, the sword drops down to the patch for her to grab it and then toss it back up so he can give it to her so she can go around the thing. Like, there's a pretty good degree of storyboarding for this sequence, and I'll give it credit for that. Cassandra also gets her time in the limelight, which is good because part of her character arc this entire time has been her trying to, you know, get recognition and not merely be the maiden in waiting. Awesome. She even gets a medal for it, which is cool. I'm going to make a prediction right now that she's going to forget all about this and be upset about being the lady in waiting in the future. God, I hope I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. And then we have one last little tidbit, which I wanted to comment on briefly. Because there's a bit where we see she has one last rose that she's keeping for herself. And obviously Rapunzel is like, what's that? And she's like, oh, right, it's private. Sorry. And Cassandra gives a weird look before shutting it away. We don't find out who the rose is for. It's for Rapunzel, right? Now, admittedly, I'm absolutely pulling from out of, you know, behind the scenes, out of character information for that. But that's it, right? Like, she's keeping one extra rose for Rapunzel. Which is obviously why she can't just give it to her, because that wouldn't work for several reasons. It does make me wonder a little bit. Disney, as a company, has this weird thing when it comes to continuity. Because they have this, they insist that you absolutely adhere to continuity 100% and cannot in any way break away from it at any point in time for any reason, unless they don't care, in which case you can break continuity as much as you want to and just destroy the old stuff. It's weird. This is true for a lot of their properties across a lot of their things. Like, they still have rules, this is not a joke, about how many things you must absolutely adhere to, unless they don't care about it, in which case you can do whatever you want. Like, it's the weirdest thing. Even Star Wars' AU has been treated this way for the most part. Yeah, the Hunchback sequel, good example. So I have a feeling that the show is very much on the rails here because they have to adhere to the ending of Tangled, and they have to adhere to the short movie that came out shortly after Tangled. And that's a damn shame, because I really do think that this show could go in far more interesting directions than that. But I digress. Yeah, Owl House is another good example. Anyways. I mean, it's not like kings and queens don't have secret relationships other than their married person all the time, right? Not that we would ever show something like that on a kid's show. Let's review this sucker. I did generally like it. I'm not going to overpraise it, but I do think this one probably qualifies as yellow territory. Good and enjoyable. The biggest thing that drags it down for me and prevents it from being any more is, in fact, Andrew himself. And try to be shocked, it's the asshole. Like, honestly. I don't want to get too conspiracy theory here, but if we look at a lot of the previous episodes, pretty much every single one of them has been specifically dragged down by the mandatory asshole of the episode. I really hope we never see Rapunzel get the ball, because that is something that could happen. It would not surprise me overly much if she did. Speaking of which, the next episode's name is One Angry Princess.